Hi guys, welcome to Twin Perspective. I'm Joe, and tonight I'm going to be presenting my favorite 25 songs from the incomparable, from the legend himself, Phil Collins. I love Phil Collins. I love him to death. If he walked through the door right now, I'd kiss him on his bald head. Which bald head, you're asking? If you've tuned into this video, you're probably a fan of Phil Collins, and you're wanting to see what I think are his best 25, his top 25. These are really my favorites. But believe it or not, there are people out there that don't like Phil Collins. I've never met him. I've never met anyone that admitted right in front of me they didn't like Phil Collins. Some of them said, oh, his voice is a little weird, but just about everybody I've ever met, when talking about Phil Collins, has mentioned a couple of songs by him that they like, either by him or by Genesis. Now, people say that Genesis sold out after Phil became the lead singer, and of course this is mostly because Phil was the lead singer, and he was getting all the spotlight, and besides his career took off in the 80s, his solo career, and Genesis pretty much rode the coattails of Phil's success, and so Genesis became a success. But there was a big difference between the Genesis in the 70s and the Genesis in the 80s, and it wasn't because they sold out. It wasn't because Phil became this major songwriter for the band and popped them up. No, it was because the band used to have two incredible musicians, Peter Gabriel and Steve Hackett, and they didn't have those musicians anymore. Michael Rutherford was always the great bass player of Genesis throughout their entire existence, but his guitar took precedence in the 80s, and you could say he popped up Genesis a lot too. Tony was the one that really wanted to extend the band and go crazy with every song, and that is reflective of Tony Banks' solo stuff. In essence, Genesis was Tony Banks' solo career. But Michael Rutherford and Phil Collins each had solo careers and other projects, and their songwriting seemed to be, in the 80s, it seemed to be just a little simpler. But I personally think that when the 80s came, there was a change in the sounds and the way that the musicians do things and the equipment and the production that they had available, and you just play with the toys that are available. I grew up in the 80s. I liked a lot of bands that were popular, but not all of them. And I thought Phil Collins and Genesis both did it better than the rest. Phil was more of the love song writer. Of course, the 80s were my teenage years, becoming a young adult, all the heartbreak in the world that a person can go through. And Phil Collins has that sentiment. He likes to write about relationships. And you know what? I identified with his music big time. Call me a sap. That's just the way it is. Amazing artist. And if you don't like him, damn, that sucks, because you're missing out on a library of music. There's only 3 artists out there who have ever sold 100 million records as a solo artist and 100 million plus in a band. That was Michael Jackson with the Jackson 5, and then solo, Paul McCartney with the Beatles, and then solo, and Phil Collins with Genesis, and then solo. So all you guys out there, like the Gallagher brothers and anybody else who never sold 100 million albums, you want to talk about negatively about Phil Collins, just don't listen to him. You don't like it, too damn bad. Sorry you couldn't write hit after hit after hit. I'm sorry that your career didn't go that way. Phil was the hardest working man in show business in the 80s. There was no doubt about it. He started his solo career in 1981 with Face Value. It had the massive hit In the Air Tonight. And life for Genesis and Phil wouldn't be the same after that. In 1982, Phil released his second album, Hello, I Must Be Going. Once again, hit after hit. In 1985, he released his third album, No Jacket Required. This was the biggest selling album he had, sold over 25 million copies worldwide, one of the greatest selling albums of all time. In 1989, he released But Seriously. In 1993, he released Both Sides, which was different for him because that was his fifth album, and that was the first album he didn't have a full band with him. Daryl Stuermer on the guitar, the Phoenix Horns. No, he did Both Sides in his bedroom by himself. It took me a couple of weeks to get used to it, but after that, fell in love with it, and of course, that's because it's brilliant. In 1996, he released Dance Into the Light. He had the old band back together again. There's some highlights on that album, a few songs that are forgettable. And in 2002, he released Testify. And in 2010, he released a record of Motown remakes called Going Back. I wasn't a fan of Testify, and I don't even own Going Back, although I've heard probably 6 or 7 songs off of it. He wanted to do the songs exactly like the originals. That's why I never got it. I'll just listen to the originals. So those are the 8 albums I'm going to be focusing on here for Phil, and my top 25 for him. Phil gets a bad rap because you couldn't avoid him in the 80s. It started with Duke by Genesis in 1980, which had a couple of top 25 hits. I'm mainly thinking of Misunderstanding and Turn It On Again. And then in 1981, he had his first solo album, and then In the Air Tonight, and then after that, nothing was the same. In 1982, Hello, I Must Be Going, his solo album. In 1983, Mama from Genesis. In 1984, he had no less than 3 singles for movies or not on albums, solo albums, that were huge top 10 hits. In 1985, No Jacket Required, which like I said, sold 25 million copies. In 1986, Genesis Invisible Touch, that was their most successful album as far as sales go. And then in 1989, But Seriously. So we're talking about Phil Collins, the lead singer and drummer, on 8 major albums in 10 years. Of course you weren't going to avoid Phil, especially since, like I said, hit after hit after hit. This was the hardest list to come up with. Very difficult. But these are my favorites by Phil Collins. And let's start at number 25. This was on a version of No Jacket Required, 1985, not the version I had. I always considered it a B-side and a song that was featured in a film. We Said Hello, Goodbye. It's a beautiful song, starts with piano and orchestra, and then gets into the great melody, and gorgeous song. Love that one. At number 24, from But Seriously, 1989, Saturday Night and Sunday Morning. That song's only a minute and a half long, and all it features is the horns and the drums, and it's absolutely fun. At number 23, from Hello, I Must Be Going, 1982, I Cannot Believe It's True. This is an evolution of Motown, very poppy. Not a lot of artists were doing music like this in the 80s. I think it's very close to Motown. As a matter of fact, I always consider Phil to have carried on the Motown tradition better than Motown artists did throughout the 80s. That's my opinion. At number 22, from But Seriously, 1989, Colors. Colors is a very political song. It's got 2 parts to it. Slow beginning and then picks up a little there. Daryl Stuermer and the horns. The second half, pretty 80s sounding. But the lyrics carry that song. Those political lyrics stand true to this day. At number 21, from No Jacket Required, 1985, speaking of 80s sounding songs, Only You Know and I Know. And that is fun. And yeah, if you're Noah Gallagher from Oasis, you're not going to like that song. But yeah, too bad. I don't own any Oasis albums. And Ride's bassist was Oasis bassist for a while. And I love Ride. Oasis never wrote a damn thing that I liked as much as Ride. I was glad to see Andy Bell rejoin Ride in these latter years. Yeah, piss off. Phil Collins, You Rule. Only You Know and I Know is a great song. At number 20, from Both Sides, 1993, I'm going with I've Forgotten Everything. This is a beautiful song. One of the slowest things he's ever done. Absolutely gorgeous. Heart-wrenching lyric. And, of course, it's about relationships. So, oh, It Applies. At number 19, from No Jacket Required, 1985, a very 80s sounding song, Who Said I Would? And that's a great take on a relationship. That's a journey I don't mind taking right there. Who Said I Would? Very fun. At number 18, from Both Sides, 1993, I'm going with the biggest single from that album, Every Day. I think Every Day is a great song. Reminds me of friends sitting around singing. It's a love song and all, but it's got a feel to it, and I'll karaoke that thing any day. You got Every Day on your karaoke? I'm singing it. At number 17, released in 1985 from the movie Separate Lives. Separate Lives. I believe this song was written by Stephen Bishop. A very beautifully written song, and Phil does it great with Marilyn Martin singing with him on that one. At number 16, from Face Value, my favorite album he's ever done, 1981, I'm going with If Leaving Me Is Easy, with Eric Clapton on guitar. Beautiful song, heart-wrenching, sad. aren't all of his songs that way? Hey, I can admit it, I'm a sap. I went through a lot of heartbreak in the 80s, and Phil had my back. It seemed like as though he was writing those songs for me to relate to. At number 15, a big single he had with Philip Bailey in 1984, Easy Lover, which is a song about a whore. A whore that you just so happen to want to be in love with and want to be with, and yeah, you're never going to get that tart to your dessert tray. Easy Lover had more meaning for me later in my life. I've been married twice. At number 14, from Face Value, 1981, I'm Not Moving. Now, I redid this song on my keyboards. I absolutely love it. Poppy as all hell. Great lyric. I also redid If Leaving Me Is Easy on my keyboards. There's a few songs I did by Phil Collins. I absolutely love him. I love the way he can write a song. Beautiful, beautiful songwriter. I'm Not Moving is fun as all hell. At number 13, from Hello, I Must Be Going, the instrumental, The West Side. Powerful, beautiful, beautiful stuff. I think the West Side could appeal to any music lover. At number 12, the big single from the movie Against All Odds in 1984, Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now. Now, Against All Odds, Take a Look at Me Now is the butt of a joke. There is no doubt about it. It's been featured in film. It's been made fun of. And you know what? I've never seen a single person sing that song and pull it off. They just can't do it. They always pale in comparison to Phil Collins. As cheesy as you want to say Against All Odds is, it's one of the greatest love songs ever written. And just deal with At number 11, another classic with Eric Clapton on guitar from But Seriously, 1989, I Wish It Would Rain Down. Hilarious video, great video, beautiful song, standard powerful ballad. That's the kind of song that even heavy metal artists wish they could have wrote. You just have that one hit, right? Phil had a ton of them. Here we go, my top 10. At number 10, from But Seriously, 1989, Find a Way to My Heart. It was featured in a movie. It's great. I love the drum beat in that. That's a great, fun song. That one will never get old for me. At number 9, from Face Value, 1981, In the Air Tonight. In the Air Tonight's a staple. To this day, everybody loves that song, it seems like. It's a motivator. No, he didn't watch someone drown. He was trying to be poetic. He clearly says, well, if you told me you were drowning, I would not lend a hand. That's basically saying, fuck you, you're on your own. You didn't watch someone drown and feel bad about it. It's just like with Genesis, No Son of Mine. Everybody heard that song and then all of a sudden they thought he had this strained relationship with his father. Yeah, he's from Genesis, for Pete's sake. Peter Gabriel wrote about hermaphrodites. Doesn't mean he's a fucking hermaphrodite. Okay? In the Air Tonight is about revenge. It's about sneaking up behind a motherfucker who dissed you and popping a cap in his ass. Okay? And that's why Ray Lewis listened to it before he went out and dominated on the football field every week. In the Air Tonight. It's not my number 1, but it's in my top 10 at number 9. At number 8, the best song from Dancing to the Light, 1996, River So Wide. One of my favorite songs addresses racism. When I listen to River So Wide, I have an image in my head of a scenario playing out where there are two sides and a huge river dividing the sides. On one side, off in the distance, you see champions. You see a sea of color, of human faces, all being human. This bridge that is being built by people like Martin Luther King Jr. And on the side we're on, trying to finish this bridge and reach the other side, and you have ugliness like Donald Trump, etc., climbing out of the muck and trying to prevent the bridge from being built. That's what I see when I listen to this song, and it is amazing. At number 7, from Face Value, 1981, Droned, which is basically instrumental, except there's a lot of African influence rhythm in it for a bit there. And Drone pours straight into my number 6 song from Face Value 81, Hand in Hand. To this day, that is a great song. Not very many people can do something like that. Simple melody, couple of changes, that's it. Fun as all hell. Droned and Hand in Hand, back to back on Face Value. Part of the reason why I consider that one of his best albums. And they're both instrumental. Here's my top 5. At number 5, probably the biggest hit from my top 5, from No Jacket Required, 1985, Take Me Home. Take Me Home. He usually ends his concerts with that. He's actually touring this year in America starting in September. He's 68 years old. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get around to seeing him, but Take Me Home features Peter Gabriel and Sting on backing vocals. I think that's the reason why that Take Me Home chorus is so powerful. I hear Peter Gabriel's voice in the background just piercing through, just deep, awesome. At number 4, from Face Value 1981, Phil Collins' remake to the Beatles' Tomorrow Never Comes. It's one of the greatest remakes ever. The Beatles are a tall act to try to improve on. A couple of people actually have remade Beatles songs and have done great jobs, but no one came close to this. Phil Collins with Tomorrow Never Knows, one of the best songs he ever did. Absolutely incredible. At number 3, my favorite song from No Jacket Required, 1985, Long, Long Way to Go. Another political song, Sting singing back up. So simple. Singular drum pattern. Never plays a lick on the drums. Just lets the pattern play. It's very ambient. It's my third favorite song he's ever done. That is just great. I'll put that one up against anybody. You want to hear a great fucking song. At number 2, from Hello, I Must Be Going, 1982, my favorite song from that album, I Don't Care Anymore. I Don't Care Anymore was the moment when I heard Phil Collins and realized this guy was singing what I felt, where I was coming from. I Don't Care Anymore is absolutely phenomenal. It's dated. It sounds like, it's got that organ kind of, which takes you back to the end of the air tonight and a few other things that Genesis did, like Man on the Corner and stuff like that. But I Don't Care Anymore is the best out of all of them. Incredible song. By the time you get to the end and you're screaming, oh yeah, I'm with you, buddy. Oh yeah. When that song came out, 1982, give me a break. I was in middle school. Girls were on the mind, and oh yeah, beautiful stuff. But I struggled. I wanted to put I Don't Care Anymore at number 1, but my favorite song by Phil Collins, and the best song I think he ever wrote, and my favorite from Face Value, 1981, You Know What I Mean. Sappiest love song you ever heard. One of the greatest love songs ever written. Absolutely tore me up. I listen to that song after every major relationship that failed for me. And I redid that song on my keyboards as well, and think I did a pretty good job with it. But it's very ironic that even though I learned that song and played that song, I go back to Face Value and I hear Phil sing it. As soon as it starts, it just tears me up. It's just really weird because like I said, I redid it, so I played it over and over and over and over again. But as soon as Phil's version starts, oh yeah, you got me, buddy. That's my favorite 25 songs from the man, the legend, the incomparable Phil Collins. One of the best-selling artists of all time. One of the greatest artists of all time. Singer, drummer, writer, producer, actor. He can do no wrong. And I tell my family this and my friends all the time, and I'll tell you, if I live to see the day that Phil Collins actually passes away, I am going to cry. I'm going to call work and tell them I'm not coming in. I'll tell them why. And if they don't like it, too goddamn bad. Because if I do go in there, then I'm going to snot all over the place. Okay? I love Phil Collins. Genesis is my all-time favorite band. I squeeze the Smiths in at number 2, and Phil Collins is number 3. Peter Gabriel's number 4, as a matter of fact. So Genesis has a big, big part of my life, big part of my love for music. And I cannot love and appreciate Phil Collins more. I wouldn't say I'm his number 1 fan. I don't even own Going Back. But I don't know if it gets much deeper than my love and appreciation for him. So thank you, Phil Collins. Thank you for my childhood. Thank you for being such an incredible artist, such a hardworking artist, and bringing me years and years and years and years, decades of pleasure. So that's it. My favorite 25 songs by Phil Collins. This has been Twin Perspective. Subscribe to Rosenfield 10 for more videos like this. Click playlists and you can find what you're looking for with these. I'm Joe. And I will see you in the trees. Bye.